Constellation Season 2 has yet to be confirmed, but if it is, then the Apple TV Plus sci-fi show has already introduced the perfect villain in Season 1. The role of a villain in the Constellation universe isn't quite as clear-cut as it is in other stories. Many of the characters pursue personal desires that don't tend to impact many beyond themselves. However, that isn't to say that the actions of individual members of the Constellation cast and ripple out into the lives of others. Constellation's grounded approach to storytelling still allows for larger-than-life bad guys, and that makes them scarier. Although Constellation's plot is powered by real scientific concepts, they're exaggerated and pulled into the world of fiction. As such, the show's take on death differs from reality. The ending of Constellation Season 1 left the show on a cliffhanger that all but declared that Constellation Season 2 needs to happen. As it stands, the story is at a critical juncture, showing that Jo finally accepts her fate in the other universe with an alternate version of her husband and daughter. While it's dressed as a somewhat happy ending, Jo shouldn't get too comfortable just yet. The dead Jo from Constellation Season 1's finale should be Season 2's villain. The Jo who died aboard the ISS has the makings of a brilliant Constellation bad guy. Constellation Season 1 finale, these fragments I have shored against my ruin, ends in a way that strongly suggests that the dead Jo aboard the ISS could be the show's next bad guy. So far, the only true villain in the show has been Bud Caldera, and his actions were purely motivated by the desire to reclaim his old life. Having said that, he did commit murder and attempted to do so a second time, so he's not exactly winning any hero prizes either. There's an argument to be made for the Valia to be labeled a villain too, but she has done nothing except look scary and communicate with Alice. So, Dead Jo has the chance to become a much more traditional antagonist in Constellation Season 2, although it could be argued that she's actually a blend of Bud Caldera and the Valia when it comes to her character and possible motivations. Dead Jo is the original version of Noomi Rapace's character from the universe that has Constellation's Cold Atomic Laboratory, CAL, as the experiment was never developed in the other timeline. Although she is shown briefly in a living state in the very first episode, the other Jo is shown to have switched into the CAL-less universe and quickly dies after a violent blow to the head, breaking the window on the ISS. Everything we know about the CAL universe Jo so far. CAL Jo has a much darker streak than her living counterpart. Other than how she died, Constellation shows very little of the Jo from the CAL universe. However, plenty about her personality can be gleaned from the dialogue of other characters as well as other scenarios. One of the more obvious observations about CAL Jo is that she, like her counterpart in the other universe, is a Swedish astronaut. As such, she's very intelligent. She also made the journey to the ISS in her universe at the same time as the other Jo did. While this may make both women seem similar, many of the main comparisons end here. The CAL Jo would appear to be much more cruel than her alternate self. The Jo who died aboard the ISS left behind a marriage that was not in very good shape. In Constellation Season 1, Episode 4, The Left Hand of God, Magnus confronts who he believes to be his Jo about how poor things were between them when she left. When she pushes him for an example, Magnus states, "You didn't look at me when you said goodbye." Jo is confused by the accusation, but it turns out her counterpart did much worse than emotionally neglecting her husband.